Today's Memorial Day. This is the day that we honor those who lost their lives in the service of their country in the military. And we expand it to those who have passed on that did serve in the military, but were fortunate enough to come home. If you know me, you know that I'm a media and marketing guy. I've been a broadcaster for my entire life, professional life. And there are many reasons for that. One of them is about my father, and since this is Memorial Day, one of the lessons I learned from him was triggered by Memorial Day. He was a Marine in the 40s. And a black Marine in the 40s, they have a lot of lessons to teach their children, including me. He went through a lot, and he did it quietly with strength. And there are lessons that I learned from him, many of them. And on that long list of reasons why I was drawn to be a storyteller, whether it's by spoken word or music, I just became fascinated by storytelling because I saw the power of it. And his story in World War II in the Pacific was one of the impactful ones. Yes, he served, but if you were black in the military and you were in the Marines, you had more than one enemy. You were surrounded by enemies, and you had to suck it up and do what you needed to do and rise above that. When he told the stories, he didn't tell them with anger, meanness. It was a resolve, which I didn't know at the time was such a blessing for me to be able to see how he was treated so badly, yet he handled it so well. It's a testament to that generation. Unfortunately, the younger generation, if you're listening to this, you could take some lessons from that generation, the greatest generation. They took a lot more arrows than a lot of us are taking today. Even though it's tough today, I don't think you really get it. Let me give you an example. So while he's dodging bullets in the Pacific from the Japanese, he's being relegated to a secondary existence, even in war. I remember the stories he was telling me about. He did get wounded over there, but it was some type of accident. He got wounded while he was there. And no, he didn't have any remorse about how they treated him. I'll just give you one example. So he's fighting over there. But it was very important for his white counterparts to make sure he was, and his entire platoon knew their place. In every detail, it was intentional. And as a child, hearing these stories, I was fascinated by it and perplexed by it. I didn't understand why we were surrounded by oxymorons and paradoxes, things that may sound like they're true. They were second class, so yeah, they were inferior, but not by ability, but by design. And in every which way, most of them overcame that and lived to teach the lessons. I'll give you one example. In the Pacific, if you've seen the movies, you notice you don't see any black people. They were there, they were fighting. Same way with the European theater. One of my favorite movies, Saving Private Ryan. You see all these guys hitting the beach, they're all white. That's just not true. Matter of fact, truth be told, when you saw those guys show up and they had all those strips of metal that they could hide behind, how do you think they got there? The black troops had already been there. They sent the black troops first. But you don't see that in the movies. So I grew up with these paradoxes. My father telling me what's true and what I see on television and hear on the radio and say, that's not true. And so I became fascinated by the stories, the storytelling, and how it affects our identity. He's over there fighting. And one of the many ways that they made sure that the black troops and the black Marines knew their place is not only the physical location and that they didn't mix like they should have, they made sure that little things like taking a shower. White troops had fresh water and had a little setup where you could go in there and get your shower. Black troops couldn't use that. They had to bathe in the ocean. It's those kinds of things. You don't see that in the movies. But if you're like me, you grew up with those truths. So when you look at television, you knew it was a lie. Most of what you saw was a lie. And that's what drew me to the media. The paradox, the oxymorons. So it's supposed to be like this, where all the troops and all the Marines fought together, took orders together, lived or died together. But they didn't. And we've learned and progressed since then in many ways, but that spirit is still here. That the spirit of the enemy is still with us. So we have to suck it up and do the right thing. So I honor those black and white, Asian, Latino, all people who have really understood what story they were told and understood the truth versus the lie. So I honor my father, George W. Jones, today, because he taught me a lesson of how to take the incoming from all directions and overcome it. Not let bitterness cloud his vision. And he became a very successful engineer for the military in his entire career, and became a high-level executive, or I think he got up to GS 16, 16, something like that. So he did extremely well, designed a lot of the military hardware that the military used for decades. So he didn't listen to the lie that he was mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually inferior. And for that, I'm grateful to him and everyone like him who didn't succumb to the lies, who didn't allow their spirit to die on the beach. Happy Memorial Day, folks.